Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another organized webinar. This webinar series is to help build organizational capacity, and I'm truly honored to be serving as your host. I am Leisha McKinley Beach. The Emory University Campus Coordinating Center created this monthly webinar series for the busy nonprofit professional who is on the go, may not have a whole lot of time to focus on technical assistance or capacity building, but having this 60-minute session gives an opportunity to enhance growth and capacity. Today's webinar, climate change, environment change, and making some change, fundraising for nonprofits in 2020. I'm so excited about today's webinar because we have two wonderful nonprofit leaders who have found a bright light of connecting with community to give during this dark season of COVID-19 that we have been experiencing. So please listen as I introduce our very first presenter. Her name is Miss Amna Osman. She is the CEO of Nashville Cares. Ms. Osman has 22 years of experience as a public health innovator and executive leader. Her experience is rich in diversity with positions held in nonprofits, government, international organizations, consulting, and academia. Throughout her career, Anna has never lost sight of her commitment to advocate for vulnerable populations. Anna believes that authentic, meaningful relationships are key to successful organizations. She has also served as a senior international consultant with the United Nations. She's chaired NASDAD, was a member of the Sexually Transmitted Diseases Coalition, chaired the Michigan African American HIV Advisory Committee, and was a member of the Michigan AIDS Advocacy Alliance. I don't know when Amna had a chance to sleep. What an amazing resume, Ms. Osman. Followed by her presentation, we will be hearing from Ms. Rania Copeland, who serves as the president and CEO of the Black AIDS Institute. Now, Ms. Copeland has worked her way up through the ranks of the Black AIDS Institute, serving as the organization's training and capacity building manager, director of programs. She had, in that role, she was the organization's chief HIV prevention and treatment expert. She managed some of the organization's most known programs, such as the Black Treatment Advocates Network. To many of you, you know that is BTAN. She managed the African American HIV University, also known to us as AHU. Maybe we can get her to bring that program back, and a host of other campaigns and initiatives. Now, Rania was named one of the Root 100 most influential African Americans in 2019. But I named her one of the most influential voices in the HIV movement. So please help me welcome both of our distinguished presenters today. Now, I know that these presenters are not expecting this to be a monologue. They want this next 60 minutes to be a dialogue with you. And although you're not able to verbally ask questions, you can definitely use the chat feature to list your questions, your comments, or statements. Even if you feel like you want us to know who you thought won the battle between Monica and Brandy, you can list that in the chat feature as well. I don't know. We're going to find a way to work that into this discussion as well. So without further ado, Ms. Osmond, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And what a pleasure to be here today to share some insight and highlights about the fundraising initiatives that Nashville Cares has been conducting during these unprecedented times. It has truly been a difficult time. I hope you're all doing well. I hope your families are well. And I hope you are continuing to serve your organizations and your communities and your clients in ways that you can really benefit from some of the great opportunities that are out there right now and really support during this difficult time. So as a leader, we always have to have vision. And just wanted to start off with the slide that a vision is not just a picture of what could be. It's an appeal to our better selves, a call to become something more. So my next slide just gives you a presentation overview of what I'll be covering today, just to talk about kind of Nashville Cares vision in 2020 when we started this year, and it's celebrating our 35th anniversary as an organization serving Middle Tennessee. I want to talk a little bit about how we made some transitions based on climate change and transitioning through serving people during this time of crisis. The importance of volunteer and community engagement, and really how our development team and our organization made some shifts to positively impact our donors and sponsors. The importance of a great and engaged board of directors, and just virtual platforms that we've used to kind of continue to fundraise, and some of the lessons that we've learned, but also the successes that we've attained. So just to start off with Nashville Cares mission, our mission is to end the HIV epidemic in Middle Tennessee. We work to achieve this through education, advocacy, and support for those at risk or living with HIV. Our slogan is this year is "We can't stop and we won't stop." Next slide. So a normal year, just like any organization prior to COVID, was we were continuing to do our fundraising initiatives. We have 4 events that we do each year to raise funds for Nashville Cares and to end the HIV epidemic. And we have, our first one was a gala. So we used to have a gala every year that was usually held in the winter. Followed by a Dining Out for Life event where we partner with our restaurants in Nashville and the supporting counties to actually raise funds for the organization. They give part of the proceeds for folks that come in to dine to CARES. And we also had a AIDS walk each year, an annual AIDS walk, and where we bring together the community to remember those that we have lost to HIV and celebrate those who are living and who we're serving. And we also have a red ribbon breakfast that usually is held on World AIDS Day in December 1st or the week of. And we continue to engage our donors to support the organization and participate in our programs. And we have volunteers that come and support clients throughout our region. And of course, serve our clients daily in-house at both of our locations. So 2020, a start of our 35th anniversary at CARES. It was an exciting time, a lot of great energy. We have been serving the community for 35 years without interruption. It was also my second year as CEO at CARES. So we had big plans and goals set, and we were hoping to host a great celebration of hope for our gala this year. We were also looking to expand and enhance our infrastructure and our capacity, diversifying our funding, and restructuring our organization to provide comprehensive services. We also had been working for a year to open up a new clinic. and just wanted to really celebrate this year, have a lot of different events and community engagement to celebrate our 35th anniversary. Next slide. So we didn't know what was coming in March, March the 3rd to be specific. We had a change in climate. Nashville was struck by a deadly tornado. It hit Nashville and the surrounding areas. Many people lost their lives, 300 people injured, and over 40 buildings collapsed, and many more were damaged. This was ranked the 6th costliest tornado in the United States. This displaced and traumatized many of our clients, our staff, and our partners. And roughly 30% of the restaurants that were in Nashville that were set to be part of our Dining Out for Life event in April were destroyed. This event was supposed to raise $120,000. So during this time, we kind of set aside fundraising and really focused on supporting and meeting the needs of our clients. Just before we heard about the COVID pandemic, our board chair, who is the medical director of HCA at a board meeting, started to share that the COVID pandemic and virus was starting to increase in different parts of the country, including Nashville. Before we knew it, life was about to change for everyone across the country and across the world, including Nashville. The COVID pandemic really made us make significant shifts and changes to our program delivery system. The good news is we were able to be proactive in planning and getting our IT infrastructure enhanced, putting together policies and procedures to work remotely, and communicated immediately to our clients and partners to let them know that we were still going to be providing essential services even though the organization was closed to the public. I say where there is a connected mission, you can always find a way to serve. Leadership emerges in times of crisis, and I am so proud of all of the Nashville Cares staff and team who were willing to lead and to provide services during these unprecedented times. The staff were ready and equipped. They started to provide essential services virtually. We started to send HIV home tests to people's homes, and testers were on the phone helping people administer the test and provide counseling and support. Our behavioral health team started using virtual platforms for individual and group therapy. A lot of isolation, a lot of folks feeling a lot of anxiety and fear. So it was really important to continue to engage with our clients during this time. We turned our office into a drive-through food and nutrition distribution center and delivered food to clients' homes. We held peer-to-peer virtual group meetings and prevention education sessions. And we also continue to engage our clients by calling and checking on them and sending them notes to support and encourage them during these unprecedented times. It was a time that was challenging, but also a time of great support. And we were able to touch each and every client that received services through these virtual platforms. Our amazing volunteers started to use also virtual platforms to engage with our clients. They came and stocked the food pantry and made food bags while social distancing and using safety protocols. We were also able to orient new volunteers that were interested in supporting the organization and serving clients during this time. And also from their homes, they made check-in calls to clients and sent cards of support. Our volunteer engagement was stronger than ever, and we have amazing volunteers helping us during this time. I say fundraising is not just about raising dollars, it's also about folks giving you their time And Nashville Cares has an amazing volunteer team. So as we started to continue to provide services, we saw a significant increase in services during this time. Our food and nutrition program increased significantly. Many of our clients lost their jobs and income due to the tornado and the COVID pandemic. We have spent over $1 million to date in direct client services. Food and nutrition, housing, utility, and emergency financial need services are needed more than ever. And our team was constantly engaging with clients and meeting their needs during this time. So it was critical not only to raise dollars to support our clients, but also to continue to serve. So this graph illustrates the increase in spending on support services in 2020 compared to the same period in 2019. Spending has nearly doubled and is still increasing. So resources and fundraising is really critical and is needed more than ever during these times. So next slide. So with the increased need in services and having to raise funds to support the organization, our development team started to strategize and create innovative ways of how to fundraise during COVID, using digital engagement and virtual platforms. They developed a new strategic marketing plan, scaled up our social media, engaging our donors and supporters. We did person outreach, calling on our friends and supporters to stand with us during this time. Our virtual impact and vision began to emerge. And so as we started to think about how we could fundraise, knowing that we were not able to have the events as planned prior to COVID, I cannot stress the importance and power of a great board of directors. One aspect of the organization that I'm really proud of is our board of directors. They are the megaphone of our organization. They're amazing ambassadors, and all of them have been fully engaged during this time. It's really critical for nonprofits to have loyal, driven, and enthusiastic board members ready to lead and serve, and especially during a time of crisis. Next slide. So since we were not able to have our Dining Out for Life event, we started to look at other opportunities. And the truth was amplified at the Big Payback, which is an amazing event held in Nashville that brings over 1,800 nonprofits. We use peer-to-peer fundraising platforms and social media campaigns to really engage donors. And we were extremely excited that we were able to raise $60,000 in 24 hours this year through the Big Payback, in comparison to what we raised last year, which was $2,500. We were also awarded as one of the top large nonprofits with the most unique donors, which meant not only did our donors and our supporters, support us during this time, but also we acquired new donors and new supporters that came and wanted to provide support and assistance to our organization. So next was our gala. At this point, we're in the summer and it looks like the pandemic is getting worse. So we needed to continue to re-strategize about our gala. Many of our community members and board came together and we actually created a gala committee. It was really important for us to engage the gala committee during this time in order for us to be successful. We had different folks that joined the committee, different expertise that all came together for us to plan our first virtual gala. It was really important during this time that we had to think about what kind of platform we needed to use to engage a large number of people. We also needed to get some technology experts and a video production team that could really support us to stream a gala of this magnitude. These were areas and territories that we did not have experience. So it was really important for us to use this committee and the experts to support us. And folks joined the committee and we started to plan for our gala. And we needed to really start to think about using social media platforms to really publicize and really gain support for people to join us during this time. So our gala went virtual. Next slide, please. Our goal was that we wanted it to be interactive, entertaining, and of course, fun. The great news was now that we were going virtual, the event, we made it open to the public. And we were able to have folks from not only our community, but all over the country and even the world to be able to join us. And we were able to have our CARES team and our clients be part of the celebration. We had ticketed guests that were able to purchase tickets. We had amazing sponsors who were still willing to support us even though we were going virtual, and were able to participate and join the gala. So one of the things that we tried to say, how can we really make ticket sales and really engage people during this time? And so we thought about bringing people together with ideas of how we could keep people engaged. And so the committee came up with swag bags where our sponsors could actually provide little kind of gifts that we could put in the bag. And we sent these, every ticketed guest was able to receive a swag bag. We partnered with Uber Eats and Grubhub and were able to get food vouchers as part of the ticket purchase. We were also able to get wine donated, and so we were able to deliver wine to people's homes. We also had a silent and live auction, and we were able to have a live artist creating pieces that were going to be auctioned at the live auction that was actually live at the event in the studio. So it was a really fun and engaging time. We were able to celebrate and thank our partners for contributing to ending the HIV epidemic. We were able to give awards and really be able to kind of showcase a lot of the work that Nashville Cares had been doing during the 35 years. So I think we even though the event, we learned a lot of lessons, and I would like to share those with you, we were also extremely successful. We raised over $107,000, and you can see that in the next slide. We had a celebrity MC that was supposed to MC the event, and knowing that the COVID infection rates were increasing, last minute, the MC was not able to come to Nashville. And so she was able to kind of stream in from her home in another state. And I also needed to kind of work on MCing. So it was interesting. I think I have another career around MCing an event, which was exciting, being in a studio and having a video production team with you. So that was really exciting and a great time. And just for all of you that ever want to MC, make sure you wear some comfortable clothes, especially if you're going to do a virtual gala, and some comfortable shoes, and feel relaxed and comfortable because you'll be standing for a long time. We also learned that if we wanted to have our silent and auction, we should actually open it up a few weeks before the gala. It's really important. It gives people an opportunity to kind of get acclimated to the virtual platform and also start the bidding process. We should send out vouchers for food a few days before the event. Kind of trying to rush to do that all on the same day is really challenging. And also to ask folks to register a few days before the event so we can actually test out the system. So those were some things that we kind of learned, but I think the production team also that does your virtual gala, it's really important that you communicate with them on an ongoing basis and really make sure that you pre-record a lot of the gala prior, just in case you have connectivity issues on the day. And it was really a wonderful and fun time. Our board of directors and our guests had watch parties. People were kind of really enjoyed the live auction piece. So we had auctioneers that were able to auction out some beautiful items, including the paintings that the artist was doing live in the studio. So it was just really a great time of celebration. We used music to kind of really engage people and inspire us during this difficult time. We partnered with the African American Museum of Music here in Nashville that's going to be ready to open soon. And so it was just really a wonderful time of celebration, of hope, of inspiration, and of unity. So next slide. So our plan and our goal is to continue to go virtual for the rest of the year with our events that are in the pipeline. We have our AIDS Walk coming up, and so we're planning to actually have a virtual ceremony October 17th. And because it's our 35th year, we're planning to do 35 years of fundraising, and we'll have a ceremony on November the 21st. We're also researching how we can look at different other virtual platforms right now. Our goal is to raise $150,000 with 60 teams and kind of really engage over 500 participants. We will continue to share stories of hope and really engaging our sponsors and trying to really look at health and wellness during this AIDS Walk to really kind of support and bring together the community. So as I reflect back, I never imagined my second year I would be leading at a time of crisis. We're all living right now and working and socializing virtually. Our emotions are extremely heightened because of this pandemic. A lot of, the racial tensions that have been happening and the lack of social interaction and connectivity. It's really been a privilege to serve our clients during this time. Our CARES team has done a phenomenal job. We've learned a lot of lessons, but it's also really strengthened our organization and really surprisingly made us come together and really be, open to change, which a lot of us sometimes change is hard for us. We have ongoing engagements and support virtually. So we're very connected and engaged with each other all the time. So it's really deepened our relationships and we've started to kind of get to know each other at a deeper level. As you all know, it's opened our homes to our colleagues and supporters virtually. And so we kind of are really able to know not only about the person that we work with or we engage with, but also their families. So and I just love this quote, that when you look back at these days, we're gonna thank ourselves for not giving up. These are the most difficult times we've ever experienced in our lives. And it's really critical that we continue to engage and support our clients and our community. We need to continue to provide the services and fulfill our mission. As nonprofits, we're an integral part of the community and we really need to open our hearts and our services to people. We need to also be very tolerant of each other during these times. There's a lot of emotions and a lot of things going on that we need to give each other grace, but continue to come together, be united, and continue to serve. And I'm really excited that when I started this year, our plan was to open up a clinic. And at the next slide, I am glad to share that on September 1st, we opened our My House clinic, providing comprehensive services, medical and supportive services to people living with HIV. And it's an exciting time for the organization. We've had some great success. We're really appreciative of all of our partners and community members that have continued to support us and to stand alongside us and with us. And we really appreciate all of the folks that we have served and continue to serve. And I thank you really all for being part of the support for all of the clients that you serve around the country. This is an important time, and leading through crisis is difficult, but is really needed. And I am here for all of you. I'm here to support you. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can all come together and learn and share from each other. And it's a time that we can really support all our folks that are in need and that need our services. So I'm here for you. I hope that you're all well. Take care of yourselves. I appreciate you, and look forward to sharing the information, and look forward to joining my community to ending the HIV epidemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you're able to see what's happening in the chat feature, but many, many kudos to you and to Nashville Cares for the amazing work that you've been able to do in this environment. And we ask that you continue to use the chat feature. Let our amazing CEOs know that we are so proud of what they're able to contribute to our HIV community during these perilous times. Next up, we have Ms. Rania Copeland, the President and CEO of the Black AIDS Institute.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to talk today a little bit about BAI and what we've been doing. I am also in my second year of CEOship at Black AIDS Institute. And so the experience of COVID-19 and this is my first role being a CEO of an organization. And so it's been an interesting experience. So I'll talk a little bit about that. A little bit about the Black AIDS Institute. Next slide. So I'll talk a little bit, what I'm going to talk about today is really kind of who BAI is, what our values are, and how that's shown up in our work, and who the organization is, and really how that's driven a huge amount of giving for the organization during what really is, intersecting pandemics. When COVID hit in March, really in February, so we had we have an annual gala that we do. It's called Heroes in the Struggle, and usually for most years we raise somewhere between I think $100,000 to $150,000, and it was scheduled for February 7th, so National Black HIV and AIDS Awareness Day. And so I'm very grateful that we were able to have that event before COVID really kind of entered the US in March. And so we did that in February, and then in March, we actually were one of the first kind of places here in California that decided to close our doors and really kind of shut down until we can figure out how to respond to the new this new viral pandemic. Can you go to the next slide, please? Who Black AIDS Institute is, we have this vision where we see a world where all Black people are free and flourishing without HIV and AIDS, free of stigma and shame, and where Black health and well-being are paramount. And for us, this is beyond HIV, but really about the kind of well-being of Black people overall. And our mission is to stop the AIDS epidemic in Black communities, and we do that by engaging and mobilizing Black institutions and individuals to confront HIV. You can go to the next slide. We are the only uniquely and unapologetically Black HIV think and do tank in America. And so we were founded in 1999, and we pride ourselves on being led by the people who reflect the issues we prioritize. We ground our work in Black leaders and communities across the country. We believe that health justice is racial and social justice, and we're deeply committed to exposing systems and roots of oppression that marginalize Black people and exacerbate health burden, which is aligned with our vision and our mission. You can go to the next slide. Oh, I'm thinking I'm going to go to the values a bit, but before I do that, I'm going to talk about this in a bit more detail. But we are a national organization, and so we do training, capacity building, particularly with healthcare organizations, health departments, and community-based organizations, really on supporting them in the various ways that we do that, whether it's through community engagement, helping build needs assessments, doing trainings around cultural competency and cultural humility, to really make sure that organizations know how to serve Black people well. And then we do mobilization and advocacy. And so one of the biggest ways we do that is through our Black treatment advocate networks. And we have, I think, something like 16 chapters across the country that meet monthly, have at least 20 members, and then a number of affiliates who are smaller than kind of the 20. They have less than 20 people in a chat, less than 20 people, but they still meet regularly. They put on programming and events. And then 5 years ago, we started providing direct services in Los Angeles, where we're headquartered. We have staff throughout the country with, I think, 4 or 5 staff focused in the South or housed in the South, but our headquarters has always been Los Angeles. And 5 years ago, we realized, as we talk about going across the country, telling people this is how you can end HIV, we believed that it was important that we also took care of our backyard, and that we have this huge epidemic in Los Angeles, particularly among Black people, and that we can take these experiences that we have with talking about providing assistance around how to respond to HIV in Black communities and take that into Los Angeles. Our values are really important to us. They're what keeps us together. I think they've been a huge part of what has been important for us, as we've really seen a huge increase in individual giving since the beginning of COVID-19. So these are our 5 values that really kind of hold us together. They are the lights that we shine out into the world. You should see this in everything that we do. You can see this in our social media posts. You can see this in the emails that we can send out. You see this in the programming that we do. Our first value is really about Black empowerment, right? We rely on the strength, struggle, and contributions of Black people to liberate systems, policies, and institutions that profit from and are passive regarding the presence of HIV in Black community. And so we're always trying to elevate Black leadership across the country. We believe that people who are closest to the problem have the solutions to those problems. And so we're always trying to highlight and pull up Black leadership so that we can guide resources and programming for our own community. Equity is a huge value. We really work to shift structures, policies, and systems, right? We're not just talking about kind of superficial outcomes. We're talking about systems and having equitable change. We focus on impact, right? We strive for results in our work and partnerships. We're honest about what's working, what's not. And our commitment to impact is our commitment to ensuring that the lives of Black people are valued. We believe in self-determination strongly. We are relentless in our pursuit of organizational mission. We define ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. And then the last one is integrity, right? We're honest with ourselves and with each other. We're reliable. We do what is right for and with Black people, even when it's difficult, and particularly when it's difficult. And so, these values really are our ethos, and we are regularly questioning ourselves and saying, how are we living into this? How are we leaning into this? How does this show up in our external face to the world? And how does it show up internally to the organization? There's not like a check mark you have on values like, yep, we got that Black empowerment down. We're constantly improving. We're constantly questioning and saying, how can we do this better? Next slide. And our work, right? So we want to see meaningful, impactful. And you can go to the next slide and see the areas of work that I just spoke about, right? So we have advocacy and mobilization, which is a lot of our BTAN work, our Black treatment advocate work. This is our work with elected officials. We also do Black-centric healthcare in Los Angeles. And so we do HIV testing, linkage to care to over 3,000 Black Angelenos every year. We do training, capacity building, and then, like I said, I don't think I said information dissemination, but information dissemination is a huge part of our work as well. You can go to the next slide. Um, so when COVID hit, we had this huge plan in place around what we were going to do in 2020. I thought I kind of had my sea legs on. They were getting kind of stable in my second year in leadership of the organization. For National Black HIV and AIDS Awareness Day in February, we had our gala. We also released our new report, We the People, a Black Plan to End HIV, which really is, a roadmap that lays out these 4 strategies to respond to HIV and Black communities. We saw the Trump administration the year before who released their Ending the HIV Epidemic Plan. And for us, when we looked at that plan, though we were excited to see this commitment towards ending HIV, which is something that we in the field have been talking about for years, and then a financial commitment behind it, we were disappointed, would be the nicest word to say, when we didn't see a specific focus on communities of color and specific strategies to respond to HIV in Black communities. That really what we saw was a heavy biomedical plan to respond to HIV, but we know within Black communities and really in communities of color that biomedical strategies are only as good as when they're taken. And that there's these huge barriers that communities of color have in utilizing those services. And so, we had just received this big grant to roll this report out. We were planning on doing, I think, 15 town halls across the country from February through June with our BTN chapters, with local community to help provide additional recommendations to local jurisdictions as they develop their EHE plans. I think we were able to do one in Chicago. And then I think we had the next one scheduled in Miami in March, and we decided, we grounded all staff from travel. I think just as folks who do public health, it was really clear where kind of this epidemic was going to go. And so we grounded staff from travel, which is really big for us. One of our top 3 expenses every year is travel, because we do so much extensive travel across the country. Most of our work is focused in the South. That's where the majority of Black Americans live. So we're regularly kind of skipping from place to place to place. Much of our staff, we're traveling 2 to 3 times a month for programming, and that ended. And so we rapidly had to think about, okay, so what do we do now, right? We have all these programs that we plan to do that we can't do because we aren't traveling anymore. And then we also knew that, our mission is to end HIV. And it was really clear also that COVID-19 was going to disproportionately impact Black communities. This happens with most health disparities. We saw it early in the data. And we also know it was really clear that COVID-19 is a huge barrier for our efforts in responding to and ending HIV in Black America. And so we felt like there was no way that we could fulfill our mission around ending HIV without also responding to COVID. You can go to the next slide. So what we did is we turned things virtual. We turned all of these kind of town halls where we expected 50 people to be coming in person across states within local jurisdictions and turned them virtual. Since April, we hosted 13 virtual town halls. We had over 700 attendees. We were really excited about that. And, we are now looking at how we can mobilize our community around voter engagement and mobilization and EHE efforts, all things we plan to do do in person that we're now doing virtual. You can go to the next slide. We also then started doing kind of a whole bunch of things virtually because we're all virtual, and being able to have this captive audience on social media in particular was a way that we were trying to pull particularly people directly from community. So people who are not in the HIV workforce into conversations that they maybe hadn't been in before. So we started a virtual conversation series in collaboration with the Harvard CFAR, with Multicultural AIDS Coalitions, with Southern AIDS Coalition, called conversations on COVID-19 in Black communities, where we were getting, 400 people in these webinars, especially kind of when we first started in April, May, June, because there weren't conversations around Black people in COVID. And these were people that really kind of were coming to us not out of the HIV workforce, but coming directly from Black community because we were posting it on social media and people were sharing it. We also have been working with the HIV Vaccine Trials Network and Treatment Advocacy Group, TAG, to really kind of talk about the science of HIV and COVID. And so we've been having those series of conversations. And then we launched a new virtual program called The Blacker the Plan that really was trying to bring in new people directly from Black communities into conversations around COVID, HIV, and systems of oppression to really try and show the intersections between these conversations. You can go to the next slide. This is our last Blacker the Plan episode. We were really excited to get Dr. Fauci and to have a conversation with us that was really specific to Black people and COVID. We also talked about HIV and COVID and impact that COVID has on communities of color, particularly Black communities. Again, this is looking to bring in new audiences, people who were not in the HIV workforce, but we could connect with on social media. Next slide. So I'll talk a little bit, because I also know we need time to discuss, around kind of raising funds during this period. We had COVID-19, and then in the summer, we saw essentially a summer of uprisings around police brutality, around systemic oppression and racism that really plagued the US. And what we saw, because of we had a huge amount of new social media followers that came to us because of the work we were doing around COVID and all this virtual engagement that we had. And then we saw the uprisings that happened. And I would say one, we embody and live out our values, particularly on social media. You can see that. You can see that in the posts that we have. You can see it in the ways that we have conversation around kind of what's happening in general in Black communities, what's happening in popular culture. And because of that, we had a lot of people, particularly like influencers, who reposted us. And when the uprising started happening, really we're saying, okay, let's give to Black communities. And Black AIDS Institute, I think, we're really fortunate to be one of the organizations, one of the Black-led organizations that really saw an increase in individual giving during this period. And so we saw around a 4-fold increase. And so usually we expect we're going to get around, I think we plan for around $70,000 in individual giving in a year. And what we've seen to date is around $300,000 in individual giving. And these are people, and we went from, I think, an active list in February of around 70 kind of major donors. And now we're at a place of 4,000 new individual donors to BAI just since, I think, April or May, which is a significant increase. And these really was from people reposting us and saying, here goes a Black organization to give to, here is an organization that is saying saying Black Lives Matter, but living that work every day. I think that, our social media following, if you look at our Instagram, if you look at our Facebook, we're regularly posting and having conversations that are about Black people for Black people. We're regularly making the connection to around how HIV is really about, systems of racism. It's really about, the reason Black people are disproportionately impacted by HIV is not because we have sex more or we inject drugs more, but it's because of these systems that we live in. And so that connection that we've been able to make has been really significant. And then we've seen, we've seen this huge increase in kind of individual donors in the past few months. We've then seen an increase when there was this call for organizations to support Black organizations and support people and movements that are responding to and doing this work. We saw organizations give. And, it was small and big. So an example is we have this organization in Los Angeles called Cheer LA, and they raised $3,000 for us on their own. That's their own kind of fundraiser. And so we are regularly being tagged in like people giving us money and donating to us that were not things that we initiated. And we have been calling this really kind of passive income. And it really is because we lean into our intersectionality, we embody and live out our values, and that our social media presence is really strong. And so, we have an example, like I said, of Cheer LA, who raised like $3,000 in a few weeks and donated that to us. We have an example of a for-profit company called Coco Kind, and they do like face moisturizer and skin products, and they donated their proceeds for a day to BAI, and I think that was somewhere around like $10,000 or $20,000. We also have been really excited. We had Hamilton, the play, donate proceeds to us. So they had this like online event giving where they did the play online with the actors, and they donated proceeds to various organizations, and BAI was selected for that. I don't know anybody at Hamilton, but again, right, like our social media is like, yes, Hamilton, this is amazing. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard the show P-Valley, which is a new show that lots of Black folks are watching now on Stars, I believe. And like, we just did a post like, what is your favorite thing about that? It's a show that's showing queer love and Black folks being Black and kind of living in the culture. And when we are tagging folks, we're building those relationships. And so from the Hamilton event, we wrote, they donated $40,000 to us. And then they had a thing where they were giving us kind of the individual, asking people to donate to us individually, and then I think we raised another $5,000 or $6,000 from that. And then we have a lot of donations that have come in like that. I will say the last example I'll give is Amazon Studios contacted us and said, our Black employee group and our LGBTQ employee group has nominated you all for a donation. And this was during Pride Month. And so particularly during Pride, we also saw an increase in donations where people were taking, pride and saying, well, how can we connect this to what's happening now with the Black Lives Matter movement, and really looking at supporting Black LGBTQ efforts and organizations. And they donated a pretty significant gift, $250,000 to the organization. And this was really because of their employee groups who we've been able to build relationships with, not because, we, have been going and doing presentations with them, but because of our social media presence and us tagging them, us asking people to share within their networks about the work that we're doing and really making it relevant to the now of the moment. And so we've been able to, in the past 4 or 5 months, really with the uprisings, raised close to $1 million in unrestricted funds from individual giving and corporate donations that are really about, how we kind of show up. And so we're doing a couple things now, and I'm going to close out so we can have some time for conversation. One is we are planning our first virtual donor thank you event, right? So we have these 4,000 new individual donors, and we want to say thank you, right? And really our goal is to turn these one-time donors into sustained givers, right? Monthly givers, so that we can take, the money that we've raised this summer and we can translate even, I think the goal is somewhere around 40% of that into sustained giving year to year. That would dramatically change our unrestricted giving, our unrestricted donations. So we're doing this event, this virtual thank you, very much like Nashville Cares, where we have celebrities coming in. We're gonna try and send them food to really say thank you. We're gonna have somebody come in and do some kind of like talent to really say, thank you, and this is where the money that you have donated is going. And because it's unrestricted, we are thinking about kind of what is the best way to show how we're getting this money and doing work with it. We're also going into kind of our first virtual fundraiser. We're planning for November. And so I'm gonna take some of those tips that you have around kind of how to do that. And I would say in general, we're thinking about impact. How do we say thank you? How do we turn them into sustained givers? And then how do we show your work, what you've donated is going to, even if it's, whether it's, $5,000 donation or a $5 donation, how is that impacting kind of why you gave to us? How does this forward and advance intersectionality? How does this respond to the concept of Black Lives Matter? And how does HIV connect to that? So those are some of the things I will say, but I will stop here so that we can at least have some time for conversation. Yeah, thank you, Leisha.
Thank you so much, Rania. Darian, I think this one should have been a 2-hour webinar. Rania and Amna, I mean, provided so many amazing examples. And I'm going to show my age because I would have never, ever thought about, you know, your social media presence in this time having such a great impact of people seeing what you're doing. And Amna, the vouchers, yeah, that was amazing. We do have a couple of minutes left. And so I want to give folks an opportunity to provide any comments that they may have or any questions. Amna and Rania, I hope that you can see in the chat feature, people are showing you both so much love. You are rare examples, I think, of what we're seeing nationally, though, as other agencies are talking about downsizing, you're talking about ways, creative ways of how you're able to bring additional resources to your organizations. And I also want to point out that, you know, both of you are new to this role, you know, now less than 2 years. And I'm wondering if, you know, what role that played in this, right? That you're faced with a pandemic, something that there is no blueprint for because we've never experienced anything like this in our lifetime. And so you don't have that 10 or 20-year history as a leader of an organization that could have pulled from something you've done before. So you're doing something new. And so if you could, you know, maybe share with us if you know, your thoughts on how, you know, how much of an impact you think that might have had on the success that you both have seen this year.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that, you know, when you come in as a new leader, you're very ready to listen, but also to make significant change. And so it's a time of change, and you come with a lot of creativity and innovation and perspectives for the organization. So I think when, you know, COVID stepped in and kind of really starting to think about how do we do things differently, I think it was a great time, not only for me, but also for my team and organization to try to pivot and make some significant changes to continue to serve. I mean, our first goal was to serve clients, but then also how do we bring in the resources and continue to engage our community. And so it was great to see how what I say, you know, this forced change was such an opportunity for us to be able to see and maximize all of the talent that we had in the organization to bring out those creative and innovative, you know, ideas and strategies to really be able to do things differently. And I think also, as you were saying, younger folks that know how to use the social media platforms, I feel old too when it comes to social media. Just being able to show the power of, you know, social media and the potential that it can have as you start to really share with your community, reach out to your community, and how people really engage, you know, everybody being at home and being on their devices. I think it was just a great opportunity for us to share information and get support from our community members in a way that we've never seen before. And so I say it's such a time of opportunity for us to use these virtual platforms and these social media channels to be able to engage people and for folks to support the organization.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think being new means there's no blueprint. And so what it just felt like was just like, oh, well, here goes another whammy. This is just part of the
Right.
And so I think that, you know, our openness or being open to kind of change, and because there's not a blueprint, you can do kind of what you want, not what you want, but, you know, you can, the path forward, you know, is really limitless, was important. And I think that also it, you know, as I went back to my board, and said, these are the new things that we're doing, being kind of helping them along the process and saying, this is what's next for us. This is what's next. I know it's a lot of change really quick, but that was also useful in trying to get people on board with new things we were trying to do.
And so, Rania, I have a question that's come in for you, and we are at time, but I want to make sure that the person who asked gets at least a little snippet of a response from you. How can smaller organizations get on this Black Lives Matter moment in terms of fundraising?
Yeah. One, I mean, I think that the values are really important, right? That there has to be alignment and a shown commitment that this is already who you guys were. And, I think part of it, I think a lot of smaller organizations and a lot of HIV organizations are already on this train already. It's about the external communication and showing this is who you are. So I think that there probably could be some conversation around that. So, and that there's places that shows up externally, especially now. So your website for sure is one. Social media is a huge one. We actually don't have like a social media staff person. We do all of our social media right now. We're working on it though. All of our social media is through a consultant that we have that I think that's somewhere like 20 hours a week. And so, how are you, particularly with Black Lives Matter, so much of it is on social media. I think there has to be significant investment in the messages that you're putting out and who else you're connecting to. And then those relationships that you have with intersectional organizations. So, are you connected to your Black Lives Matter chapter locally? Like we sit on the national coordinating committee for Black Lives Matter and have for the past few years because we always saw that as an intersectional issue. And we work with other organizations locally and nationally, whether it's housing, mass incarceration, that I think are within that same kind of framework. And so I would say really think about and do some work on how you express that externally, because once you start expressing it externally, particularly through social media, your website, that people are going to find you through the hashtags, they're going to find you through the reposts and those types of things. And so that would be my first step, is kind of identifying and listing, describing your values, and then having a plan for expressing that externally. And make sure you do it internally too, because you don't want to be saying this is who we are, and then you have people from community who maybe are working with you that are not, who are saying that's actually not who you are.
All right, thank you so much. I really hate to close this webinar because there's so many questions that I have as well, but our time has come. I would ask those who are with us, just help me celebrate these two amazing Black women and leaders who are showing us how to get it done. So if you will, in the chat feature, let them know we appreciate them, thank them for their work and their service. So for everyone else, thank you. Thank you so much for listening and asking questions and providing your statements. This webinar will be available on the Emory website for reference. And I'm certain that Darian's gonna help me be able to find out how I can post this on my own social media. That'll be part of my TA, right? Because there's so much rich information that was provided today, and we want to make sure that folks are aware of it. If you want to learn more about this topic or request a training, please apply to the Emory website at www.gileadcampus.com. Thank you again so much for joining us on today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Be well.